No one ever talks about this episode. I don't know if it's because of its absurdly long title that subconsciously makes people not want to write about it, but whenever I see people put together a top 10 or top 25 or even top 50 episode list, you don't really see this one that often. And I'm not really calling out the Simpsons community out here, because I'm pretty sure last time I did one, I didn't list it either. I would kind of think, oh, that Raging Abe Simpson episode? Yeah, that one was pretty fun, and then not even give it another thought. However, rewatching it for this review kinda won me over. The things it does and the things it prioritizes is so dramatically different than your typical Simpsons episode. You look at something like Homer Badman and think, what an interesting satirical breakdown of sensationalist media. Or maybe something like Lisa's Substitute and think, what a nuanced and intelligent exploration of Lisa as a character and her relationship with her father. There is subtlety to those episodes. They say something profound about the characters and society as a whole. They also have a ton of quotable jokes. This episode is not like that. I think there is a much stronger emphasis on fun than your typical episode. That's not to say that an episode like Homer Badman isn't fun. It has a candy convention scene after all. But the Raging Abe Simpson episode seems specifically constructed to have the audience walk away thinking, wow, what a fun ride. The bad guys are really, really bad, and the good guys kick a lot of ass. What more could you ask for? It's a different look than we usually get for the show. Like, take Mr. Burns for example. I really love what an over-the-top evil bastard the guy is in this one. A lot of people would suggest that this is too far out of character even for him. Him basically trying to murder Bart is really, really dark. Me personally, I just enjoy the different interpretation of him. He's always been written at various points on the evil spectrum, so why not just take that knob to the bottom and see how despicable he can be? Sure, he's a huggable teddy bear in some episodes, but he's a downright Bond villain in other ones. The guy tried to block out the sun, for God's sake. Personally, I want to see Mr. Burns chew the scenery for 20 straight minutes. I want to see him barge into people's rooms unexpectedly. I want to see him laugh maniacally and shake his fist at people. I want to see him put aside his pretenses of having to live in polite society and just go for it. I want to see him at his most menacing. This is, by the way, one of my favorite moments in Simpsons history. It is so beautifully shot with the shadows and the lighting and the pacing of the whole thing. I would argue that Act 3 of this episode is probably one of the most beautiful acts they've ever done, rivaling some of the stuff in Black Widower. There's the awesome spotlight effect and the underwater exploration stuff with the distortion, and Grandpa's action scenes, both in the water and chasing down Mr. Burns, are framed in a very dynamic and exciting way. The pinks and bright colors used for the very end are a nice color choice as well. Earlier on, I really liked the graveyard scene between Burns and Grandpa. It's very gray, it's very monotonous, it's very slowly paced. Not just Grandpa fumbling for his key forever in that joke, but just the two characters standing there, not saying anything to each other. And then we wait 5 to 10 seconds as Reverend Lovejoy slowly drives away. It's very cinematic. I also really like the way this episode treats Grandpa. It's probably his most positive portrayal in the entire series. He is portrayed as brave, loyal, and headstrong, a man of integrity who will protect those around him. It's probably a little much, considering what a joke he is most of the time, but I think the episode does a good job with playing with our expectations and proving us wrong. In some respects, I feel like it's going for something like Old Money, letting Grandpa prove something to himself and those around him. But I think this is slightly more successful than Old Money in this regard, in that Bart is around to drive that message home. Bart is such a relentlessly cynical character. If you can win over Bart, you can basically win over the audience. I think the ending between the two of them border a little too much on being schmaltzy, but I'll give the episode credit that they at least cut the treacle a little with that Fun Boys line. They always back off when they need to. Despite what some people suggest, I still don't think this is that funny of an episode. Or at least by season 7 standards it isn't. I mean, the jokes are fine and all, but The Simpsons in general is a ridiculously hilarious show. Being a below average Simpsons episode in terms of humor is still pretty darn good overall. It has a bit of a quotability problem, which is why I think people overlook this one a lot. It's full of funny moments, but not necessarily snappy dialogue. For example, I love all the assassination attempts, especially this one. There are some good visual gags as well. I also enjoy the exchange between Grandpa and Ned Flanders. They're so enthusiastic about a night in their dinghy. The most quotable line, as proven multiple times in the comments, is, "I'll be in the car, dude." Solid line, great delivery, hilarious moment. Definitely my favorite joke in the episode. Still doesn't stand up to the all-time greats. Sorry. But you know what? I honestly couldn't care less that I don't laugh that much during this episode. There are hundreds and hundreds of Simpsons episodes filled to the brim with cleverly constructed jokes and pitch-perfect parodies. I can get that anywhere I want. However, there is only one episode that feels like this one. And for that fact alone, I think it deserves another look.